Welcome to my Best 11 podcast. Today we are joined by a freelance journalist who is an absolute Luton nut, loves the club and is currently working for a number of different media outlets, including TalkSport and The Guardian. You may have heard her on there. And whenever she gets a chance, she always gives a plug to the mighty Hatters. Here to talk about her time supporting the club, we're joined by Faye Carruthers. How are you, Faye?
Really well, Andrew. Lovely to see you, and brilliant to see you too, Marv.
Thanks, Faye. I hope you're well.
Very good, very good.
Excellent. So we're here to talk about Hatters. I'm just going to get straight in there. So what are your memories of Marv as a player down at Kenny?
Oh, I probably retired, was I?
No, oh my God, no. No, you were club captain when I first started going down. I mean, thank you for the compliment, but I'm ancient, so, you know. You were captain. My first proper game, so I've told people this loads of times, so apologies for repeating myself, but I wasn't allowed to go to Luton games when I was younger. My dad wouldn't let me because he used to go to Luton games when he was younger, and that was why I was not allowed to go. You know, you can probably just fill in the gaps yourself there. When I went to university, I was doing broadcast journalism at Nottingham-Trent, and there was a sports show on our radio station that came about like twice a year. And I said, I really want to get involved in this. And they said, well, do you think you'll be able to get to Luton games and report on Luton games for us? I was like, oh my God, I'd love to. So I'd got in touch with the press office and they'd said, we can't fit you in the press box, but we can put you in the main stand. So I literally had this flip down Motorola phone, you know, with like the antenna that kind of goes up like that, and I did match reports from that. So anyway, I messaged my dad and I just said, oh, I say messaged, I phoned him. It was, you know, texts were there for emergencies only.
160 characters only.
That's it, yeah. So I rang my dad and I said, oh, I'm coming home this weekend. He's like, oh, brilliant. What for? I said, oh, well, I'm going to the Luton game on Saturday. We've discussed this. You're not going. And I just had this like full-on diva moment with like, Dad, this is my career kind of thing. And he was messaging me throughout the game to check I was okay. And I still had to like look back to like a little while ago to work out which game it was that I was at, because I couldn't remember if it was Manchester City or Millwall. And it was Manchester City, 1-1 draw. And club captain Marv at the time, 1998 that was.
1998, yeah.
University. So yeah, it was that was my first ever game. Although obviously, when very infrequently we were ever on the television, I would watch and I'd kind of know what we were doing, and you know, Match Magazine and things like that would be the way to kind of find out what was going on and chatting at school. But really, that was when my kind of love affair, if you like, started.
Excellent. Look at Miles grin. He's thinking of that game. He's thinking of that game.
No, I wasn't. I was just thinking. Like a lot of the times, who was your the pin-up? What do you mean when you was younger? The pin-up boy for you? Like it doesn't have to be a Luton player. It might be another player.
Well, I mean, the Man United players were what everybody was talking about at school at the time. So Lee Sharp in particular. I was a massive fan of Andre Kanchelskis. I absolutely loved him. Luton-wise, Scott Oakes was the guy that everybody used to talk about at school. A couple of stories with that. It was that they were probably the main ones. Wrighty as well, who I'm been privileged to be able to work with nowadays. Like my friend Lynn absolutely loved Wrighty. She was a big Arsenal fan as well as Luton. Predictably Luton. Her boys are season ticket holders now with her husband as well, so she goes down to games. And actually, you know, that's what kind of drew my attention to Luton in the first place was Lynn. Because she was a big Luton fan, and I just kind of followed any football. It was any football that was on the television, I would watch it. And then, as I say, I went to university because I hadn't been allowed to go. I had gone on the plastic pitch, by the way. I'd sung carols on the plastic pitch back in the day in primary school.
Were you allowed at the fun days they used to do down there? The fun days on June time, I think it used to be.
No, we didn't. We just didn't. Like, my mum and dad would watch the game, because mum and dad used to go. They used to sit in the Oak Road end. And my granddad would go as well, but he was originally a Brentford fan because he was from Middlesex originally. Then my uncle is a massive Luton fan. He still has not forgiven my nan for throwing away all his Luton Town programmes when she moved. He had them all up in the loft, and she threw them all away. Yeah, it didn't go down very well. And then, so we've got a split in my family. So there's me, my uncle, my cousin Graham, my cousin Neil are all massive Luton fans. I bring my dad now. I now bring my nephew, Jake, who absolutely loves it. I'll talk about him later. And my little boy, Ted, who is 7 months old, went to his first game against Nottingham Forest a few weeks ago.
So he's a lucky charm then.
Yeah, hopefully. But the other side of the family are Chelsea season ticket holders. So we had a lovely moment actually when we met them in the FA Cup. We hired out the trophy room, and we had dinner there and sat in the trophy room, and like my whole family. It was lovely, really lovely. Not the result, obviously, but we paid for it. Yeah.
Oh, we put up a decent stand. We put up a decent. We did all right. We did all right. But we're here to talk about your memories and your times as a Luton fan. And those people who haven't listened to the podcast, what Faye's going to do is go through the best 11 players she's ever seen. Now, when we don't have players on and we have fans on, they quite often put a bit of a kind of caveat or some rules on it. So what rules have you tried to abide by, Faye?
So only players that I've watched. So nothing before 1998. Despite me having watched various YouTube videos and the like, and obviously, Mick Harford just being a general legend. But yeah, this is what I've tried to do. And my caveat is it's not necessarily the best team in terms of quality, because obviously it's from different eras of Luton Town, from the conference up to now, so different standards. But I would say these are all players that have sparked an emotion in me in the past, that I enjoyed watching, that I remember talking about on the terraces, and that's where I'm at with it. But the additional caveat, and I've got two additional caveats. So first and foremost, my memory is shocking. I'll go to a game on a Saturday. Ask me what the score was on Sunday. I've really got to think about it. By next week, forgotten it completely, because my brain is so full of stats, players, goals for my job that I just cannot retain certain things. The things I can retain tend to be feelings or emotions or something about the day that I've remembered, if that makes sense. And then the other is that I listened to your fantastic podcast with Simon Pitts, who's brilliant. And obviously Simon is just phenomenal in terms of stats. Has been watching Luton for years, but we're a similar age, so we've watched Luton from around the same era. And I know that his same caveat was that it was only players that he'd seen. So actually, when I initially went through it, lots of our players were the same. So I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll have a couple that are the same, but I've tried to change it because I know you only spoke to him in March. So yeah, so there you go. There's my however many caveats that is.
Excellent. So we'll start. Let's get going then. Formation. What formation have you gone for, Faye?
Right. So again, I wanted to go for a 3-4-1-2, 3-4-3. Just because it's working so well for Nathan at the moment. But because of the players I've chosen, I've had to go old school and go 4-4-2. So you'll see what I mean when the midfield was what the problem was for me with that.
Right.
I was okay. So this is why I've decided to do this.
Right. Okay. So we'll jump straight in. Goalkeepers.
Okay.
And you can give some honourable mentions if you feel the need to, just in case you meet them in the future.
There's going to be. So the clue for this one, first one, he's trained with England before.
Ooh.
Is that it, Faye? Come on.
We're not that good.
One more. Okay, all right.
Okay, right.
At a Premier League club, but he never played for them. He had to drop into the lower leagues to get his chance.
I'm gonna guess. I'm just gonna guess someone now. I can't think of his name now. Tyler, Mark Taylor.
No,
I think go on.
Go on, you know.
I'm gonna go Marlon.
No, and do you know what?
Did he play for Burnley?
Yeah, Marlon and Mark Tyler are my backups.
See?
Again, I didn't go for Mark Tyler because that's what Simon went for. Marlon Beresford, for me was just absolutely fantastic. But I think this player deserves it. He joined Luton when we were in League Two. Okay, this will be the one. If you don't get it from this, then I'm just cutting this call off, and I don't believe you're genuine Luton fans.
Okay, Embo.
No, he's just signed a new contract.
Is this what?
He's just signed a new contract.
What, James Shea?
Yeah.
I didn't know he trained with England.
Yes, once.
Wow.
Wow.
Amazing.
Why James? What does he, you said about emotion. I mean, goalkeepers generally are there to do a job. They're not poster boys on the whole. So what is it about James Shea then?
I think he's been patient. I think when he helped us get promoted up to the Championship and then obviously lost his place to Simon Sluga, that could knock any other goalkeeper with an ego. And it didn't. He just mucked straight in, helped Sluga get to grips with the league. Obviously, we then needed him when Sluga had that period where everybody was like, oh my God, we spent money on this guy. Are you kidding? And actually, that to me is the sign of somebody who appreciates their trade, wants to work hard to regain their place on merit, but doesn't try to. And I know it's a goalkeepers union. Most goalkeepers are like.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, he had an opportunity to kind of sulk it off, bearing in mind what he'd done for us, and he didn't. And he won the Golden Glove Award when we won League One. He obviously has that title winner's medal on top of that. I just think he's a really calming influence in the dressing room, and I feel as if this injury. I'm so gutted for him with this injury. It's so infuriating.
9 months, isn't it now?
9 months, and then it kind of happened to him again with Jed Steer being brought in at the start of the season. Again, he's just not seen as the natural number one, and someone else has to.
And 9 months means the club's going to go out in the summer. They're going to have to go out in the summer and buy something.
Yeah, precisely. But I still feel as if he is the type of, they would not, bearing in mind how long that injury is going to be, they would not have rewarded him with another contract had they not thought he was somebody who's a great influence behind the scenes and is brilliant at what he does. And although, it's really funny, isn't it, how stature of a goalkeeper, when you look at it, you look at James Shea in the goal and he seems much shorter than he actually is. He's 6'1", but for some reason he doesn't feel as if he fills the goal as some other players do. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Tyler never seemed that tall.
No, but and it's weird because what's the lad from Brighton who left Brighton to go to Arsenal? The Australian
Ramsdale. The Australian Matt Ryan.
Yeah, Matt Ryan. He's obviously a shorter goalkeeper, but springy, and I feel as if James Shea is springy, and he's dug us out of holes on so many occasions. For me, much as I kind of grew up with Luton in terms of Marlon Beresford and Mark Tyler, I do believe that James Shea is going to get it for me.
Interesting. Yeah, great shout, I think. And like you said, unsung hero. Even when Marek Stech was in the club, he still...
Oh, I forgot about Marek. I really liked Marek, I thought he was great. But
Marek was in there, and I think Shea also had to bide his time a little bit when Marek was there. So they were kind of vying for first place. When we were going with Accrington and stuff like that, they had to go at it with each other. So, but we're going to move on to your defence, right back. And you can't go JJ.
Right,
oh yeah, I've always been right back. Number 2, JJ. Traditional.
Why can't you go JJ? Why
can't I go JJ?
Okay, you can go JJ if you want to. Well, because is he a left back or a right back?
Well, this is the thing, right? So I have put again.
You play both.
Are we just going to have asterisks next to absolutely everything? So I have put him on his favoured position as right back. it was a real toss-up. I had Kev Foley in there, who I know you coached, Marv. He was in there. Jack Stacey. So I did Jack's first Premier League interview at Bournemouth. And it was lovely. He recognised me when I came and did the interview, and we got a photograph afterwards, which I never ever do in a tunnel because it's just so cringe. But I was so like in a non-patronising way. I was so proud of him for what he's done, and he's a really smart lad. He's doing, studies in the background as well. Potentially going to go on and do fantastic things in the game, as well as he's got the foresight to kind of think about what he's going to do next at such a young age. Very sensible head on his shoulders and just fantastic. And, perhaps has been a bit limited in terms of injury and things with Bournemouth, but hopefully get another opportunity with Bournemouth being promoted now in the Premier League to show how awesome he is, because he is. And without him and JJ, that season was just absolutely incredible with both of them on the wings. But I've chosen for JJ to be on his favoured right, just because he's constantly being played on the left now. And he's so versatile. You could play him anywhere. I think the other day, he was almost playing as a striker. He was kind of driving into the box. It was really, really random, but he's got that pace and he's got that intelligence, and he's going to play for England for sure in terms of the seniors. Gareth Southgate, I'm England correspondent for TalkSport, and Gareth Southgate said just after his injury, I think he and Harvey Barnes got injured about the same time for Leicester, and they were both on the periphery and would have been brought up to the squad by Gareth Southgate. Obviously, he's been England under 20s, England under 21s as well, but he's the type of person you need in a tournament in terms of versatility.
Yeah.
But he's one of our own. And do you know what I've just realised?
Go on.
I didn't give you clues, because you said don't go for JJ.
No,
but it was. Do you know what? Do you know what? I think it had to be them. I mean, you can go all the way back to Boise and people like that as well, but for Luton, I think it's a case of, I know Boise kind of is as well, but really, because it is a little bit rare in the last, say, 10 years that Luton have brought somebody through from their academy as a kid, as a 7, 8, 9-year-old, and actually come all the way through. It's really rare at the moment.
So one of my clues was going to be he's been in a side that's beaten Bayern Munich. That was going to be one of my clues.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good clue.
That's a great, because of course they went over there and did that tournament, didn't they?
Yeah, he was 11 in 2009, and I talked to him on social media, and he was brilliant when he came back from his injury. Really, really took his time, and actually, an injury like that, we've seen so many players over the years, they just come back and they're just not the same. But it's happened to him young enough that hopefully he'll be able to come up, and we'll see that same form recaptured. And I'd love for him to have the opportunity to play in a European final if they do it tonight, like when we're recording ahead of Leicester playing.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But here's the question for you then, Faye. How shall I word this? Who's been the most difficult person you've interviewed?
Difficult? So I've just had to interview David Moyes 2 weekends in a row when they've been beaten. That's not fun. Not fun. He's very polite and very nice, but if they've lost, he's got this stare, he's got these piercing blue eyes that, by the way, I love David Moyes, just as another caveat, because phenomenal manager.
Yeah.
I work with Stuart Pearce for TalkSport, and Stu speaks so highly of what he's done, and to come back to West Ham and do what he's done at West Ham, on the brink of a European final, absolutely incredible. But in terms of when he's lost, if you, which I did a couple of weeks ago because I'm an idiot, if you make a statement as opposed to ask a question, he gives you this death stare that is, how do you want me to respond to that? That's answered it yourself, essentially, is what he's saying behind the eyes. Right. And you immediately think, oh, shit. So, yeah, I would say he's difficult, yeah. There are a few others, but let's stick with David.
You're like,
Do you think all people are difficult just when they lose?
Pep Guardiola is the opposite. So Pep is difficult when he's won, and because he can be very obtuse. Luckily, never with me. He's been fine, but with other people, he can be really prickly. But it's really strange. He's passive. He's the definition of passive aggressive, I would say.
That's really interesting. Yeah. I wonder how he's been after we're recording this. I wonder how he's going to be after. I wonder if you say he's okay after losing. I wonder what he's going to be like after the Real Madrid game. But
well, I think he was again very philosophical. I think it's going to take them ages to dissect that. It was unbelievable. I actually was watching it on delay and had gone to make myself a cup of tea. And then Twitter went mad, and I was like, "Why? What's gone on?" So I was like fast forwarding. I was like, "Oh my god, it's literally 10 minutes behind." So yeah, bonkers.
Indeed.
But again, like huge respect for him, incredible manager. But it's not pleasant interviewing anybody after they've lost.
No.
It's a really. I don't know how you felt about it, Marv, and how you feel about it as a coach, but somebody sticking a microphone in your face when your emotions and your adrenaline, having just walked off the pitch, particularly if you've not played brilliantly, it must be so difficult just to kind of be able to manage your emotions and respond properly.
It is, but I mean, I've always tried to be honest, and so I mean, you don't want to say too much because, like you said, your emotions are quite high and stuff. So being honest and trying to replay the game really quickly in your head or assess it in your head really quickly and speak openly about it, that is the best way to be, I feel.
Yeah. Agree.
Awesome. So we're going to go left back.
So left back, I've done it in the wrong order in my page.
Sorry, I've thrown you. It's because I go traditional. Number 2 and number 3.
It is traditional. I'm a rebel. I've gone the other way. I went centre backs first. So I again could have had JJ. I can see. Oh no, I need to give you clues. See, I'm messing it up every time. I'm just answering.
I need to host.
Okay.
I'll get the host down. Sorry.
No. It's me. It's me. Right. Okay. Clues. This player. Oh my god, it's so funny. I've actually played on the left. As a clue. Right, he started his career at Swindon. No?
No, go on.
Right.
I think I got it. No, go on, carry on. No. I'm not going to
tackle.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And
go on, Andrew.
The last clue is Sidibe.
Yes, as all Luton fans remember that tackle that came flying in, and then we've heard the story of what happened in the tunnel afterwards. Was it the bar?
Well, it was in the bar, yeah.
With Ricardo Fuller, wasn't it? Was it with Ricardo Fuller?
Yes.
Yeah. Go on, Marv. You keep going because have you heard this?
What's that?
Faye hasn't heard it. You go, Marv. Oh, we're talking about Sol Davis, by the way.
Yes. No, Nico told the story. I wasn't there, but I mean, Nico told a story, and it was a case where did they both get sent off?
They both got sent off. Yeah.
And separate incidents. Yeah.
Yes, and so I mean, Sol's is totally different to off the field to what he is on the field. So once he crosses the white line, it's he'll like everyone says, I mean, the saying, he'll tackle your granny sort of thing. He literally would run for a brick wall sort of thing. Really, really off the field, nicest lad you could ever meet. And so I believe Sol is in the bar afterwards, and he's walked in Fuller, and he's just said, "Hey, look, all part." Sol's gone up to him to say, "Hey, it's all part of the game." Obviously, the next thing is just all Fuller wasn't too happy, and it's kicked off, and they're wrestling on the floor in the bar at Stoke, apparently.
Wow.
So, yeah,
that's incredible. And by the way, my nan would have him for toast.
Do you think that endeared him as a Luton fan? Do you think that type of tackling?
Yeah.
And
Everyone loves that. I mean, that's why we love Nico, wasn't it? Exactly the same reason. Bang, straight in.
Right.
Every football fan loves a player that crosses the white line, as Marv says, and puts in every single effort, no matter what it is, even if it's
passion, isn't it? It's what they would do, I suppose. They're looking at that player and they're thinking, well, that's it. I mean, they could. I mean, there could be like having the worst game ever, but like they'd make a tackle or make a challenge like midway through the half, and it used to just sense it at the Kenny. It just raised the level of the atmosphere for the supporters, and it give the players a lift.
Yeah, and he was involved in one of the most kind of bizarre weeks that I've kind of had in football as a fan, because I think I can't remember if this is the right scoreline or not. I probably should have checked. I think we beat Leeds. We
5-1.
scored 5. Yeah, 5-1. Beat Leeds. And then me and my cousin went to Goodison Park to watch the League Cup third round against Everton. We lost 4-0, and we were like, it was so depressing coming back. I then, again, one of the reasons I remember this is because I went the wrong way home on the M62, and my cousin like rang me going, "You're going the wrong way. You live south." Anyway, yeah, there's many stories like that, by the way, which me and my other cousin, so that was with my cousin Graham, who lives up near Leeds. My other cousin Neil, we went to watch Luton play again. I think it was in the League Cup, play Aston Villa. Do you remember that? We lost that 4-0, I think, as well. I had the tickets, and we literally came over, you know, that flyover where you see Villa Park on the right-hand side? We came over that, and Neil just says to me, "You have got the tickets, haven't you? Just triple checking." And the minute he said it, I just went, "Oh my God, no, I don't. They're on an envelope on my bed." And he went, "Yeah, funny one." I went, "No, I'm not lying." Just like... I then messaged my ex-boyfriend. He's a massive Luton fan. He was on the coach with the fans on the way up. I was just like messaging people going, "Anyone got any spare tickets? This is what I've done. I'm such an idiot." And then they actually they opened up the tickets, and we ended up getting tickets, and we got Villa tickets, but they said, when we said, "Look, we're Luton fans, but this is what I've done," they let us sit in the away end. So we got really lucky, but yeah, I wasn't massively popular. But yeah, like the idiocy. But going back to Sol Davis, and that same week, of course, after the Everton game, was when Sol had a stroke on the coach on the way to Ipswich, which we then lost. Yeah, so we lost. We'd shipped 9 goals in the space of a week, and then Sol had, you know, as a 27-year-old, you're like, well, what? That doesn't make any sense. And of course, then that tackle with Sidibe was only a few months after that. You know, he's back on the playing pitch, and everyone thought, you know, he'd never play again. So for me, you know, his kind of attitude, pushing against adversity and everything else, Sol Davis for me is on my team sheet.
Definitely. No, I like the logic behind that. Perfect.
Nice.
Centre backs.
So, Marv, you were in there for me, but Simon stole you. So Simon put you in, and that is the only reason you're not in my team, because otherwise
you're so polite, Faye. You're so polite.
It's genuine. I also, in fact, let me give you the clues first. I've done it again, haven't I? Like I told you, my memory. What's that? Like 3 minutes? Again. Right. Okay. So first one. Let's go this one first. Sunday League.
Yeah.
Oh, go on, Andrew.
I don't know if I should guess it because I feel bad for the listeners. I feel bad for the listeners.
Do you want me to do the next one?
I feel like I should write it. I feel like I should write it in the chat thing so I can write it up. Go on.
Merseyside.
Yeah, it is what I thought it was.
Volley.
Yep.
Fleetwood.
Steve McNulty.
Yes. Macca. What an absolute legend. And again, this is, you know, we're talking non-league, but that goal and chats I had with him afterwards when, you know, we were promoted from the conference finally. He was just brilliant. He was, you know, he kind of epitomised everything that was awesome about what we all thought was going to be a horrible time, 5 years down in what was the Blue Square Premier. And actually, I think many fans absolutely loved it, as I did. You know, we didn't love that we were down there for 5 years, and we were all relieved when we finally got promoted. However, going to all those grounds, meeting all those different fans, watching the football that we played, having those kind of players that were putting themselves on the line week in, week out to get us back into the Football League. I loved those 5 years, stressful as they were. It was fantastic, and it just always reminds me of why I'm a Luton fan, because I remember I did an article for the non-league paper the first year that we went down, and I got some pelters for it, actually, because I said I feel as if the Luton fans have got a bit of a Leeds United mentality in terms of, Leeds for ages were like, we're a Premier League club. It's like, well, you're not in the Championship, so, until you're in the Premier League, you're not a Premier League team. Very basic. That doesn't go down very well, obviously. And I said, I feel like we, a lot of our fans just assumed that we would just, yeah, totally. Yeah. And it is not an easy league to get out of. There's one automatic spot, as we found. If you don't win it outright, the playoffs are a lottery. So, it was a crazy few years, but Macca for me kind of was just
him and John Still together. They seemed to have something between the two of them that worked. It clicked. It was the right place, the right time, the right two players, and two people that, when we got relegated, the club would not have gone anywhere near. I don't think we wouldn't have gone anywhere near John Still, and we came down with players like Kevin Gallen, those type of players, and we would never have gone near a Steve McNulty. But yet it took a John Still and a Steve McNulty to be the ones that brought us back up.
Yeah, 100%. And I still remember, so obviously that volley, I did a podcast recently with Theo Delaney talking about the goals of your life, and this goal was in it, because the amount of people who aren't Luton fans, who whenever they talk about Luton, they say plastic pitch, Kingsley Black, and that Sunday League player with that amazing volley. Oh, and they also say Xabi Alonso halfway line.
I was going to say all the halfway line.
Talk about that. Yeah. But that volley, he caught that so high in the air, and he's like the most I think he only ever scored 2 goals for us in total. The most unlikely player to score it. The most unlikely player to get his body in that kind of position, with the greatest respect. And it was such a cracking finish. It was awesome.
He was a baller, though. He was so really good with the ball at his feet. It was comfortable. So good.
So I think he used to. I vaguely remember, although again, and I should have put another caveat in at the beginning of this, that my 90s and noughties and into the 10s, actually, let's not lie about it, were kind of a drunken haze, which is why I don't always remember things that well. And I had been drinking when I had this conversation with Macca. But I'm pretty sure he said he trained with Jamie Carragher when he was in the Liverpool Academy when he was a kid, because he's from Merseyside, obviously.
That's right.
Went to Tranmere, and now he's assistant manager, I think, of Chester.
Okay.
So he's still knocking around the game. But we had a conversation in the Bricklayers Arms after we were promoted. Andre Gray was behind the bar pulling pints, and Macca was talking to me and a few of my mates, and he said, because obviously the night we knew we were going up was another result against us, another result we weren't playing, so it was really surreal. And Macca was staying in the flat that he was staying at. Somebody knocked on his door at like 10:30 at night, and this Luton fan was just stood in front of him in tears going, I just want to say thank you so much for everything, it means so much. Macca said it was just so surreal. He's like, how did you know I lived here? It was really weird.
Stalker. Wow.
Yeah, exactly. But he was just the most down to earth, chilled, accessible, brilliant person. Yeah, I thought he deserved to be in my side.
I think it's quite interesting and refreshing to hear you just speak about, have the players having the drink. That's a lot what I remember when I was playing. And I'm not sure if it still goes on or how long it will last. Because I see there's a gap now coming where players are being put on this a little bit I don't really want to, not that they don't want to talk to you, but they think, whether it's right or wrong, they don't associate them with the supporters. I used to love it. A lot of us used to love it. We used to go out on a Saturday and, obviously, if you didn't have a good result, you wouldn't be going out to to like rub people's face in it, because obviously they spend their hard-earned money to go and watch the game. Even though I believe that we gave 100%, it's still not the right way to go out and have a good time, shall we say, when you've had a defeat. But a lot of the time when we have the good times, it was a case where back on the bus, you go out and it's like, hey, well done and all this, and you interacted with the fans.
Yeah.
And that was one of the things which I didn't go to no other club to play at another club, but I was very happy to be at Luton. But that was the one thing I think which Luton had, was like a family-orientated club where the players socially interacted with the supporters.
I think social media's had a lot to do with that, because I think there's so many concerns by players that they'll get filmed doing something. You know, you obviously can't have a drink. You know, anything happens on the pitch. Like one.
Well, even the whole cover. Yeah. Every time they walk around, they cover their mouths, even if they're just on the benches or anything. Yeah.
Cameras everywhere, and there's people wanting, for whatever reason. I mean, you know, whatever you want to do with your life, fine. But
just clickbait.
God.
They just want clickbait.
It's clickbait. They want clickbait, and there's just there's people love a pile on, you know.
Yeah.
And we're talking about human beings, and you know, it really does annoy me when people use, but they get paid X, Y, Z, and it's like, well, this is their job. It's not their fault they're getting paid what they're getting paid. That's the market that they work in at the moment. Yeah. And I just, you know, yes, you can. There are players at Luton, and you know, we'll get to players that I've got, you know, who do still mix with the fans, who do chat, who will their time. That is still a thing, and particularly with the young kids as well. You know, my nephew Jake is he's autistic. He suffers from, you know, socially difficult, and feels uncomfortable in crowds in particular.
Social anxiety and that sort of thing.
Yeah, and he literally will get like in front of the players, and he's just enamoured by them. He scream their names and so excited when they respond. Like, he loved Kazenga Lualua. Kaz was his favourite player because he did somersaults, and he's like, oh my God, he's amazing. First game I ever took him to was actually in lockdown, and we were privileged enough to kind of go as stewards. And I took him, and he was literally like, we were obviously behind the glass, and he was like knocking on the glass, Kaz, like trying to get his attention. And he gave him a thumbs up and a wave, and that was it. Like, Jake was just, that's the best thing in the world. And I think there are a lot of players who know the power that they have over young children in particular, and that everybody, you know, it doesn't take 2 minutes just to wave or say how
exactly.
you're doing. You know, again, I've got other stories later on that I'll tell you, which are, you know, basically, you know, there are players who are not, you know, of the kind of superstar arrogance.
Well, that's great to hear.
No, it is. So next to McNulty is...
Okay, this person is a coach. He's had 2 promotions with Luton Town.
Yep.
He's an under-21 international. Loved a set piece.
Signed from Bradford. Was it Bradford? Or am I confusing?
No, I think you might. Who do you think it is?
Sheehan. Alan Sheehan.
Yeah, I don't think he came from Bradford, though, did he? Hang on, let me have a look. I don't know. Oh, yeah, no, he did. No, on loan.
On loan. Andrew,
come off it.
Sorry, that's my fault. That's my fault. I didn't put Bradford. Oh gosh, I didn't put Bradford. I put Leicester, Leeds, Notts County, Swindon. Didn't put Bradford. Sorry.
Bradford. So anyway, but Alan Sheehan. Mr.
Sheehan.
Sheehan, Mr. Set Piece himself.
Yeah. Nathan's first signing in 2016. 135 appearances, and now he's back, retired, and he's a first team coach. And I just think he's a consummate professional. And again, you know, both these players I've put in instead of you, Marv. You know, you were in there. You were my number one, I promise you. But in terms of captains, he was an excellent captain. And the fact that he's now come back to us, you know, and can influence the team is fantastic. And he clearly has a really good relationship with Nathan and the rest of the backroom staff. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come back, you know, because he's not as experienced as some of the people that are on the backroom staff, but clearly Nathan sees something in him that he wants to harness and wants to, bring to a club that he really liked and really respected. So yeah, I don't necessarily have any particular, because he's quite, every time I've met him, he's been quite shy and reserved. So I don't necessarily have any, exciting anecdotes about him. I've interviewed him on stage before in the kit sponsors dinner. But every time I've met him, I've always been very impressed with his manner, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. I agree. Totally agree with you. So what we're going to do is we're going to pause it here and we'll have a short ad break. And then when we come back from the ad break, we will have Marv's 60 seconds, quick fire 60 seconds, and we'll hear the rest of Faye Carruthers' My Best 11.
Hi, I'm Kelvin Davis.
This is Sean Dyche.
This is Ricky Hill.
My name is Kevin Nichols.
My name is Mark Pembridge.
Hi, my name's Rebecca Lowe.
Kevin Gallen.
Hi, my name is Mick Harford.
My name's Steve Davis.
This is Ian Foyer and
Kevin Foley.
My name's Graham Alexander, and you're listening to
My Best 11.
My Best 11.
My Best 11 podcast.
Welcome back to the second part of My Best 11 pod. So far in Faye's team, we've got James Shea, James Justin, Sol Davis, Steve McNulty, and Alan Sheehan. We're going to hand straight over to Marv for Marv's quick fire 60 seconds. Over to you, Marv.
Right, Faye. VAR or no VAR?
VAR.
Favourite other sport?
Netball.
Golden goal or penalty shootout?
Penalty shootout.
Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Bundesliga, La Liga or Serie A for quality?
Serie A.
If you could change one rule in the game, what would it be? That's a difficult one. That's
the
not
new handball or the new handball.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. Yeah, I like that one. Beer, wine, or spirit?
Wine.
Fish and chips, pie and chips, pasta.
Can't have any of them.
Okay. Best player, top player you've seen live. Best player you've ever seen live.
Oh, Harry Kane.
One more, Marvin.
Favourite holiday destination?
Oh, we went to the Maldives once. I'd love to go there every single year until I'm not here anymore. But I can't afford it.
So, VAR, you are a fan. Or was that a more bet the devil you know, or what's your thoughts on it?
So, VAR itself is not to blame for the problems that we have with VAR. It's the interpretation of VAR. It's still human error, which you're never going to eradicate it. I just think there are stats. Mike Riley has provided stats on the fact that there are fewer mistakes made since VAR has been introduced. But I've been lucky enough to be at Stockley Park when they first introduced it, and I've played on it. In fact, me and Stuart Pearce with the two, with VAR and assistant VAR. It's very complex what they have to do, and they have an editor there, and it's very quick. The biggest problem I have with VAR, not just the interpretation, but a lot of that is IFAB and the rules. Are a big problem. The laws, sorry, I always get told off for that. But I think that VAR is a good thing for many reasons. Like the offside is offside now. Like I think that's really important.
Yep.
I just think in stadia, the experience for fans has to be improved. because fans are looking at their phones to find out what's going on rather than being told on the, they're so slow. Even as a reporter, it's so hard. You're sitting there going, so I had the same incident. Aaron Ramsdale, I was at West Ham Arsenal the other day, and Aaron Ramsdale came charging out on Jared Bowen. And, if Jared Bowen had left his leg trailing, which, was exactly what David Moyes said to me afterwards with his piercing blue eyes, then, Mike Dean would have had a better decision to have to make. But VAR worked well because actually he made the right choice. He still shouldn't have booked him, but you can't overturn that because it's a yellow card. He shouldn't have been booked. But I didn't know what was going on. All I'd seen, and everybody else in the stadium, had seen Aaron Ramsdale appear to clatter Jared Bowen. And, they do look behind the scenes. The reason they put up VAR check is when they're looking at it a few more times. They just don't tell you enough or tell you quick enough what's going on. You're looking at the referee to see if they've got their hand in their ear. You're then watching if the referee runs over to look at the monitor. And I just feel as if there could be something, and by the way, I don't know the answer to that yet. It's something that I think, would take a long while and a lot of heads to sit down and think what's the best answer for it. But the experience for fans has to change, definitely.
Yeah. And I find it ironic, it's especially in two of the biggest clubs in the countries, it's even worse because Old Trafford and Anfield don't even have big screens.
Nope.
But they're just announcing it over the tannoy. It's absolutely, that's it. That I think is even worse.
And that could potentially happen if Luton were to go up to the Premier League. We don't have big screens. There would be an enormous cost to put them. Don't know where you'd put them.
We're not getting rid of Skefco clock.
No, definitely not. Keith Keane tried to break before the digital clock came out. Do you remember Keith Keane? He was nearly in my team. There you go. I've given you a hint for later. He was nearly in my team because I remember a game against Aldershot, and the reason I remember it is because my old producer at TalkSport, when I worked on the breakfast show, was a massive Aldershot fan. So it was a big deal when we played them. We were like, oh, brilliant. So he was sat in the Aldershot end, and Keith Keane whacked one over the side and broke the scoreboard, and it was hanging down with the wood. And so someone had to come out with a step ladder to fix it, and the game was delayed for 10 minutes. And
I remember that.
My mate was messaging me going, what kind of shambolic ground is this? He's an Aldershot fan, for God's sake.
I thought you were going to talk about Keith Keane's corner from the Skefco section against Oxford.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God, no, I've forgotten about that. Brilliant.
That was a blinder.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Right, we're gonna move on. So, not to mess up your notes, which order do you want to go in?
Okay, so let's go. The way I've done it and the reason, so I was going to have, so just as a kind of caveat, I was going to have wing-backs and have Stacey and JJ as my wing-backs and go 3-4-3.
Right.
But because I've picked two strikers, it didn't work with the midfielders that I want to put in. Okay, here we go. Let's go. I'm not even going to tell you where in midfield, and then you're going to have to guess.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Off you go with the clues. Let's see what we get.
Okay, first clue. He signed from a Premier League side.
Kevin Nichols.
Nope. He scored his first goal for Luton against Hereford. He only missed 15 minutes of action in the title-winning League One season. He's an amazing auctioneer. He only scores bangers, and he's made over 300 appearances.
Oh, no.
Come on! No more clues than that.
I get stuck on certain clues. That's my problem.
What are you stuck on?
Signed from a Premier League club. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, and now I'm thinking, did I get that right? Now I'm like, no, he did. He 100% did. He 100% did. Yeah.
You know what the thing was?
Right, okay. Okay.
Go on, Andrew.
Pelly. Yeah.
Signed from West Ham.
Yeah, that's why I suddenly cottoned on to it. Yeah, okay. Pelly, Mr. Luton. And if we get promoted, the only player ever to have played for the same club in 5 tiers. Is that right? Is that what it's going to be if we go up? Yeah. Absolutely.
What an absolute legend as well. And there's many reasons that Pelly's in my team. I've been lucky enough to spend time with him for 3 seasons in a row, I hosted the end of season kit and sponsors dinner. And one year in particular, I was doing the auction, which is always quite difficult. Nick Owen had come up and helped me out a few times, but everyone's had a drink. There's always people at the back being leery, and it's like, oh God, no one can hear you. And I'm not really very school teachery and like, will you be quiet? So I was just like, oh God. Anyway, Jake Howes came up to me in the break with a blazer, and he went, I've got another item for you to auction. I was like, oh yeah, what's this? And he went, it's Pelly's blazer, because he'd taken his blazer. I was like, does he know that you're auctioning it? And he went, no. And he'd had a couple of drinks. I was like, oh, okay then. So I put it up as an auction prize. And everybody was a bit confused. There was no takers to start with. So I got Pelly up on stage, gave him a microphone. Don't give Pelly Radicampanza a microphone, seriously. He was fantastic. And he literally was on stage like, you're bidding for it. £100, yes. And he was just like pointing at people, demanding money off them. It was amazing. So I got him up the following year to do it as well. And he's just, what a character he is. What a stalwart for Luton Town. What an incredible career he's had and he's having. Obviously, he's getting older now, so it's tough for him in terms of injuries. And, I feel as if, in some ways, I feel as if we've been lucky that he's been injured, because it's perhaps meant that other teams haven't taken him from us.
Yeah.
In lots of ways. And I think he was one of the players that many people believed, because of where he's been with us, that perhaps would fall by the wayside when we were promoted up to the Championship. And he didn't. Every league he's gone up to, he's got better and better and better. And I think he's just wonderful. And so he was a no-brainer. He was one of the first people on my team sheet.
Yeah. He's also the one that signed a new contract in the summer. I remember there were lots of questions about, is he going to sign? Is he not going to sign? Obviously, he was just about to start getting caps for, I'm going to get the country wrong now, part of the African nations.
Congo.
Yeah, so he's starting to get caps for them. And I know there was lots and lots of worry about, is he going to come back for pre-season? Is he going to sign for Luton? And it suddenly dawned on, I think, a lot of Luton fans how important he is.
Oh, God, yeah. He's incredibly important, and you notice.
Because he divides fans, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
I speak to my dad. My dad's a season ticket holder down there, and he says it's literally chalk and cheese. It's like Marmite. It's incredible how many people dislike him compared to how many people absolutely love him.
I never realised anybody disliked him.
I know. I think I find that hard to believe.
No, as in not a person, but in terms they find him frustrating.
I mean, I think every single player has the benefit of the potential, of being frustrating. But I think that just shows what potential they have, doesn't it? Because
I'm a fan.
You know what they can do.
Yeah, I'm a fan, definitely.
I think he's wonderful. And part of obviously so many good things that have happened to this club over the last 8 years that he's been with us. That he well deserves his spot. Definitely. So next to Pelly. Okay, another player that came through the youth ranks.
Jake Howes.
No. Worthington Cup.
Go on.
Leeds United.
Oh, yes. Matthew
You've
Spring.
had him on your podcast. Yes, you've had him on your podcast.
Suddenly all the clues make sense when you put it like that.
I know.
Yes. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
That's why they're clues, Andrew.
That's
why you designed the podcast like this.
Were you at that game then? Were you at did you get to go to the Worthington Cup game, the one that did you go on the pitch? Or can we not ask that?
No, I did not go on the pitch. So this was such a weird game for so many reasons. I feel as if at this period in Luton's history, I spent a lot of time talking about how disgraceful some of our fans were. And that night in particular was very difficult because a section of fans had gone on to the pitch, and were waving the corner flag around and all sorts. And this is why when I speak to a lot of Luton fans, actually, more than perhaps you would think, no matter what happens this season, obviously it looks as if Watford are going down. We could make the playoffs. We could bypass each other. Equally, we could have to play each other in the Championship. And I think most people are just like, oh God, I actually don't really want the M1 derby because it's just not a nice atmosphere, is it? Like, and it's you obviously want to do one over Watford, which we have, and which we did in this, but at the same time, it's just, you know,
boarding up statues of Graham Taylor. Having to board up statues during lockdown.
Yeah, I know. I just find I just don't like it. And actually, I've done a lot of work at Watford when I worked for the Premier League and when I worked for Sky Sports and for Final Score for the BBC, where I used to report on Watford games. And everybody behind the scenes at Watford are lovely. They're a really nice club to work for, to work at. I'd still, don't get me wrong, I want to thrash them. I want to humiliate them on the pitch, but I don't have a hatred for them at all. But this was very sweet, and it was so weird because I worked at Sky Sports at the time, Sky Sports News, and I'd managed to wangle myself a car parking ticket because I was coming straight from work. So I'd got a car parking ticket, but it meant I had to then walk around through in the opposite direction and through all the Watford fans, hiding my Luton scarf in my pocket. And I was meeting my best friend Gary, and he was bringing his girlfriend. And I remember saying to him at the time, "Do you think this is a good idea?" I'm not, like, she's never been to a football match before, and you're bringing her to Watford Luton at Vicarage Road in the cup. I'm not sure about this. Anyway, they're now married with 2 children. I'm godmother to their youngest. But God, I at the time I just thought, you're crazy. Anyway, I walked into the ground and I didn't know what was going on at the time. And I walked into the ground and I literally got flattened up against the wall through the turnstiles by the riot police that were coming in. And I met Gary and Kerry, and they were like, "Oh my God, it's been kicking off, blah blah blah." And Gary had messaged me saying, "Just be careful on your way in." And it was horrible, and then the atmosphere was really horrible. So then when you have Matthew Spring, and again this featured on my best goals ever with Theo, Matthew Spring then scores this 35-yard screamer. It was just brilliant, and Steve Howard involved in it, and it was just such a great goal. And then he ran the length of the field, perhaps inadvisedly, to come and celebrate with the away fans. Not the greatest thing to do necessarily, but yeah, that's Matthew Spring for me. Because I then watched him when we went up to Ellen Road, and I can't remember if he scored or not. I meant to look this up. I'm sorry, I completely forgot. Right. Whether or not he scored against us at Ellen Road when he'd gone there. And of course, I did and ah about whether or not I was going to put him in the side because he then went and played for Watford, which, it just discounts people as far as I'm concerned. But I couldn't discount him because that's still one of the goals that I remember vividly.
Yes,
it's a fantastic goal. Yeah, great goal.
Stunning. So Pelly, Matty Spring, which means we're going to have to go wide.
So we're going wide. First one, over 200 appearances. Signed on a free transfer in 2001.
Yep.
Won the League One title in 04-05.
From Leyton Orient?
Yes. And my last clue is Dubrovnik.
Armet Berkovic.
Armet Berkovic. Signed by Joe Kinnear in 2001. He played across the midfield, but he liked playing on the right, and that's where I kind of remember him playing predominantly. He was brilliant. He got 15 goals in that promotion season in 2005 from midfield. Which is so impressive. I remember going. So I told you my family lived. So my cousin lived up in Leeds, and I lived up in Leeds for a couple of years. And when I got back from travelling, and so that year in particular, I used to go to quite a lot of away games because there were actually quite a lot of northern teams in the league then, and so I used to go to more away games than I did home games. And 2005 went to it was then the John Smith Stadium. It might have been the McAlpine then, I can't remember. One of the two. But Berkovic scored and we all just went mental. It was fantastic. We thought we had all 3 points, and then Huddersfield scored a really late equaliser. And I remember the walk back I remember being in a stonking mood because it was a good goal. I love Berkovic anyway. We'd been raving about him beforehand, and then we conceded a really sloppy goal afterwards. And it just put me in a foul mood, and I was in a foul mood all weekend after that. And I always remember that game, but it was the only reason that I was in a decent mood before that. But yeah, I'm at Berkovic for me. Brilliant.
Fantastic. What's his best? I know you say you can't remember too many goals, but for Berko, there are two that stand out as a Luton fan.
Bicycle
kick against Leicester.
Yes.
And the winner against Hull.
Oh, yeah. No, I've seen that on YouTube recently, I think.
Yeah, so the 88th minute, top corner, against Hull when we were both first and second in the top of League One.
Yeah.
If you can remember them, which one meant the most, or which one was the...
Well, the whole one was more important, wasn't it? In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So I would always go for whatever is the most crucial, because I think it's harder to score a quality goal when you've got pressure on you.
Okay. Is that true, Mark, do you reckon?
No, I think so.
Remember your Ipswich goal and scoring in that cup final? The Ipswich game in their second leg.
That was more instant. I mean, again, the ball would come up. I mean, over 2 legs now, and you've got extra time, and the last minute of extra time, 120 minutes of football, and there's a case where Richard Wright, who been at Arsenal, a good goalkeeper, and Springer put the ball in, and literally, I don't know if he was just going with it for one hand to get his hand on it to catch it, where maybe he should have punched it. It literally just fell onto my head, and it was just a case of me thinking, just get it on target, and then that was it, sort of thing. Yeah, so I get goose pimples even now, and obviously I still see it or talk about it. It's quite crazy, actually. Yeah.
I love that though. The fact that you can still remember the feeling that a goal gave you like that, and it's so funny how we're all kind of guilty of going through, and it must be even more interesting for you to do that because it's actually your thought process. But you watch things and you what's the word I'm looking for? You separate the individual things out, and there's a word for it that's better. I'm a journalist. I say that. I can't think of what the word is. Oh God, baby brain massively is a real thing. And you separate it out like that when actually it's only a split second. There's no way on earth your brain would actually have gone through that entire thought process stage by stage. But when you watch it back, you think it has.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah.
That's a poacher's instinct of this is bang. That's it. It's done. And then you look at it afterwards and go, actually, God, that was really important. I must have thought of the significance, or I must have done this. But actually, no. If you're a good footballer and you love the team you're playing for, you're not even thinking about it. It's like, I'm scoring, bang.
It's just true because, Lenny Lawrence was the manager at the time, and there was another game where I think I had scored against Bolton in the last. We ended up tying 1-1 in the FA Cup, and then I remember that we went back to Bolton. We ended up getting battered. We lost 6, but again, it was sort of Ian Fuhr was a goalkeeper had come up at the last minute, and literally he had caused a little bit of pandemonium in the box, and I had to maneuver my feet quite quickly onto my right foot to move them. And it's like you're saying that when I look back at the goal, I thought, oh my gosh. Even though I was a professional, you expected to do these things, but to maneuver the ball around the goalkeeper quickly, it was just, I just did it simultaneously, sort of thing, without even thinking about it. And like you said, it's
Do you think sometimes, because I'm fascinated as to how former players kind of think when they look back on goals, particularly important goals like that, do you ever sit back and go, God, I can't believe that was me? I can't believe, do you ever have a surreal out of body moment with it?
So, well, the one for me, Faye, was when I scored against Tranmere when we went to Tranmere, and they'd not been beaten. And I mean, again, like you said, all the facts come into your head afterwards that they'd never been. I think this is in the January, February time of the turn of the year, coming towards the end of the season. They'd not been beaten at home all season, and we went up there and we played Leicester the week before. Philip Gray and I had scored against Leicester at home, and then went to Tranmere away. And Philip had scored the first goal, and then in the second half, Kerry Hughes was on the left, and we were and I was playing left back, and literally we both closed down one of the Tranmere players, and I had nicked the ball off him, and literally started dribbling towards the goal, and nutmeg. And I knew from the corner of my eye there's a defender coming across, nutmegged him, gone through his legs, and bent it with my so-called wrong foot, my right foot, because I'm left-footed, into the top corner. That was a moment where I thought, wow. I mean, literally, if I'd scored that goal in today, I'd probably be worth 25 million as a defender. I'm joking. No, but it was one of those ones where, again, wow, that was a pretty good goal. That was a pretty decent goal.
It's so funny because, especially back when you were playing, there were less. Nowadays players, the minute they've scored, it's already a GIF or out on Sky Sports for people to watch straight away. Whereas it's actually quite rare to watch your old goals back straight away. It would take the analysts a while to kind of maybe get them. Some games won't have been filmed.
Yeah.
It must be like such a different experience to what the players have now.
Oh, so much different. John Moore was the assistant manager at the time, and he was very Scottish, very serious and very direct with what he said, and I know he was giving me a pat on the back, obviously when he was talking about it, but it didn't seem that way because obviously the Scottish don't have it. If that was scored by a Brazilian, that'd be replayed time and time and time again. He said, and then he was going, "Well done," and then walked off, sort of thing.
Brilliant.
Excellent. So we're going to keep going, and we're going to move across to left midfield, left wing. Okay,
I had a couple of options here. Oh, and by the way, an honorary mention to another in a second too. But this player helped us to win Division 3. He only made 34 appearances.
Have you gone with your head or your heart?
My heart, all the way, Jean-Louis Valois. Oh my goodness! I just used to love singing his name on the terraces, and we loved his shock of dark hair and the way he flew down the wing. And some days he'd play, and some days he wouldn't. And
as soon as the clocks changed, basically in British winter time, he never played a game, did he, Marv?
He was selective. Let's just say. I think.
As soon as the clock changed.
So I'm intrigued, Marv, because obviously Jean-Louis is somebody who kind of goes down in folklore in for lots of Luton fans. But when you actually look at his legacy, it's not that great. 6 goals, 34 appearances. It's a decent stat return, if you like. But what was he actually like to play with? For me, and this is going to sound really a little bit ignorant, but I was oh, we've got an exotic player playing for us. We've got a Frenchman. This is exciting.
I remember when he turned up in training with literally, it was a case where, like he said, long flowing dark hair and stuff, and it was a case where the balls got drilled out to him, and we used to play a lot of different five-a-sides, and it was touch, great touch, dribble, left foot, in and out, so on, bang. And we were oh my gosh. It's literally at the time, I'm not sure if it's the same era, but maybe a little bit later, we're thinking, we got David Ginola. It was literally, oh my gosh. And we thought, it was consistently for about a week. And we was thinking, oh my gosh, the gaffer's got to sign him. You have to sign him. And then we signed him, and then, his debut, who was that against now? The debut, the goal. Torquay, that's it.
That goal, brilliant.
The unbelievable debut I've ever seen anyone's ever had, basically, to score that goal against Torquay. But he was a really a good lad. it was, as Nico put it better, like he said, his French, I mean, his English was good, but like it went to French when he didn't understand. Well, he said he didn't understand some of the things when you used to give him a little bit of a bollocking and stuff.
What was Mick like with him? Was Mick frustrated and joking? Were they
No,
frustrated with
I
him,
mean-
or did they accepted that's him?
Again, I mean, it was. I said I was getting on, and obviously, so it was a case where he had Matty Taylor at left back and John Louis at left midfield, and I was like on sub, and so like when things were maybe getting a little bit difficult, or John Louis wasn't having a great game, it'd be a case where I could come on at left back, and then now they could shove Matthew Taylor up into left midfield to maybe push him more forward to create some opportunities for Stevie Howard at the front. So it was they knew what they had, and Joe was obviously like a very good manager, very assertive in what he wanted. And so if it was a case, he was on, look, Jono, he's called me Jono. Jono, get warmed up. John Louis not having it today. He's not doing it. Go on, Jono, get warmed up. And so yeah, they knew, but he was a very, very, like I said, talented player.
Yeah, he was. He was a fan favourite. So I'm glad to hear he was all right behind the scenes as well. There's nothing worse, is there? Like as a player, when people go, oh yeah, that player was brilliant. He's in my best 11. You're like, he was an absolute twat. So I'm really glad he wasn't.
I'm sure Marv's heard a few names come up that you've thought that of, Marvin. You don't not mention,
What's that?
But sure, there's a few people you've heard go. You were
There is another story with John Louis actually, where we went. I can't think what game it was. We cut back and we went out, and it was a case where I don't know what happened, what it was, but there was myself, Nico, John Louis, a load of us out, and it got into a lot of trouble afterwards, where there's a fracas of some sort, and no one was called. The police wasn't called or anything like that. But we've now gone home or whatever. And then the next day, I think, or 2 days later, Cherry Newbury, who was the secretary at the time, she called me and Nico into the office and said, "Was there a problem? Did you go out the weekend?" And we said, "Yeah," because there was a few maybe, I don't know, lads who were trying to cause problems. She goes, "Well, we've got the nightclub." What nightclub was it?
It was Liquid in Chicago.
Liquid, that's
God.
it.
It was. I remember hearing about this. Yeah.
It used to be called the Zone before it was Liquid.
Really? And so literally they had the CCTV camera, and you had the stuff where you're like the ropes where they have the little bolt. John Louis got one of them in his hand on camera, waving it around, trying to hit someone. They said, I'm thinking, oh my God. But he was like, I think it was more from fear, because obviously, again, being French, they were pretty laid back. And I don't think he realized, being out with us, and we never were looking for trouble, but I think something must have happened. And then she said, "Oh, this is gone on, and what can you tell me about it?" And so we told her the stories, and literally some lads were just trying it on, and as you do as a group of players, you stick together, and that's all it was.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was funny when she said John Louis.
Can't go anywhere and just enjoy yourself without people.
No.
And this goes back to the point we were making earlier, isn't it? Why perhaps there is now a separation between fans and players, because players just want to protect themselves, and there's so much more involved in terms of sponsorship deals, contracts, and other things that they need to protect. That it's not worth getting in trouble.
It probably doesn't help when Nico's probably set a firework off inside Liquid or something.
Oh, and by the way, big honorary mentions. Stuart Douglas was very unlucky not to get. I loved watching him play. Matty Taylor as well, absolutely loved him. You just mentioned him there, Marv. And of course Nico, but again, Simon Pitts.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
he would. But he's Nico, just wonderful. Another player who just epitomises Luton. And in fact, I do remember my dad. We went to Milton Keynes shopping. And my dad went, "That's Kevin Nichols, isn't it?" And I went, "Yeah, it is, but don't point at him." I just remember being like, "Don't point at him."
Excellent. So we'll move on to Strike Force. Who is up front?
Right. Well, I mean, you're guessing my era anyway, aren't you? So I don't even think I need to really give you any clues. One of Luton Town's greatest ever strikers around this same era. Played for Luton between 2001 and 2006. Yeah, he knows. Marv knows straight away.
I think I know. I mean,
go on,
Andrew.
I've written him down already.
Did he play for Leicester?
Yeah.
Yes.
Was he sold for a ridiculously small amount of money?
Yes.
Was it 50? Was it 50,000?
No, we bought him for 50 grand. We sold him from. Was he 1.5 or 1? Nico was 1, and I think he was 1.5.
1.5. Yeah, I think you're right. But he and particularly the League One winning season in 04-05, where I went to so many games. I just, you go into Kenilworth Road now, and his picture is adorned everywhere because he was just wonderful. Little bit of a Shearer-esque celebration when he used to run off. Just nails. Newcastle fan. Mr. Luton Town, Steve Howard.
But what I love about Howie is, we say Mr. Luton Town. Derby County fans say Mr. Derby County. Leicester fans say Mr. Leicester. That's him though. But that's a testament to him as a person.
Yeah.
But I've got it in front of me in terms of our top scorer, 02-03, 03-04, 04-05, 05-06.
Yeah.
And just brilliant. He was wonderful, and obviously the season, I think he left in 2006, didn't he? And we were relegated from the Championship. But yeah, for me, I can't even remember all his goals. I just remember if his name's on the team sheet, he's likely to be on the score sheet, and that's what you want from your striker, isn't it?
No, definitely, and someone who could look after himself. Mick helped him a lot as well. I mean, I used to give him stick because I did on the podcast. I think when we signed him, it was like he was Northampton's top goal scorer, but I think he was 9 goals. He wasn't like a prolific goal scorer, but again, it just showed what obviously Mick and Joe saw in him. They knew he had a presence, but they also added goals to his game and added confidence, and he doesn't like talking about the York game, so that was one of the most famous.
I wasn't going to mention that because actually I'm gutted for him that whenever people talk about Steve Howard's Luton career that they bring that up when actually it was a horrible situation, and I remember what all me and my family talked about at the time. However, I don't define him by that one incident. It was, momentary.
But Faye, the reason I mentioned it, as players, as colleagues, it was no big deal. It wasn't like a big. I mean, for us, it was like he hadn't scored. He doesn't stay better. We were fine about it. I mean, a lot of the press or the outside people outside our club probably made more of it because, like, it was a case where he was just passionate. He just wanted to score. At the end of the day, that was just how it was, and it was a case of maybe within the next few days it was forgotten about,
Yeah, exactly. And I just think, he's quality. I'm going to sound really pathetic when I say this out loud. He follows me on Twitter. I'm like, Steve follows me on Twitter. Oh, I'm such a loser. But I love it. It's brilliant. And as I say, I went to so many games then, and particularly that period between 98, 99 to 2001, which was my 3 years at uni. I watched so much of Luton, and me and my mate used to go £8 a ticket for a student ticket. So I'd come home on a weekend and pay £8 and come and watch Luton, and then obviously do reports and stuff at the same time. And then 01 to 06 was when I went away for a little bit of time. I went away, would you believe, when bloody John Gurney came and tried to ruin us.
Oh gosh.
I was in Australia when we went on that big march. I was in Australia and I was in an internet cafe in a really dodgy backpackers hostel, trying to get the connection to make sure that my name went on the petition. And I'm like, it keeps cutting me off.
I don't want a stupid Grand Prix track.
Oh my God, some of the stuff that come, like you're sitting there now and it's terrifying, really. My mum actually was reminding me, because Claude Nakper, by the way, very nearly made it into my side, and Kevin Pitts took him. But I was talking to my mum. I told my mum I was doing this podcast. She was really excited about it, and I said, I'd mentioned all of my family basically went to Wembley for the Johnson's Paint Trophy final. And we had Club Wembley seats that I'd organised because my granddad didn't walk particularly well. I wanted to make sure he was comfortable. It wasn't going to be like, loads of fans jumping on him and stuff. And we all went. And I thought, so again, this is where my memory is so sketchy. I still have goosebumps thinking about it. Do you remember they had those great big balloons that had the club on them, like rotating? I just remember looking at that crest coming round and thinking, my club might not be here. Like this time next year, this club might not exist. That's how close it was, wasn't it? And I just remember feeling really sick about it. And my mum and I got really emotional, but I thought that was before the game. And my mum said, no, it wasn't. You literally, after all the celebrations, you took yourself off when all the players were coming round celebrating. You took yourself off to the front to get away from everybody because you had tears streaming down your face and you were sobbing. I was like, oh God, I'd clearly had a couple of glasses of wine additionally to pride. But yeah, and I was like, I thought that was at the beginning of the game, but it wasn't. It was afterwards when I should be celebrating. But that's when you look back at our history, which is why I think, and I'm sure every single club has this, because every club has been through some form of adversity at some time or another. But the amount that Luton Town have been through, and the fact that you can sit and have podcasts like this, the podcast that I've done with Dan before, the conversations that you have with people who you meet, and you're like, oh my God, you're a Luton fan as well, blah blah blah. And what everybody knows. Neutral fans have got an affinity with Luton because of what we've been through. And you think how bonkers our history is. And it's getting even more bonkers. We're on the verge of potentially being in playoffs to get into the Premier League. And you're like, this could only be Luton. At the same time, this is not me being a pessimist, by the way, because I'm an optimist. But somebody said to me the other day, oh, you don't need to worry. You're in the playoffs anyway. I went, 30 odd years I've supported this club. We're not in the playoffs yet. We've got 2 games left. Yeah. This is not done and dusted. It's not comfortable. And then, of course, we ship 7 against Fulham, and I'm sitting there going, oh, only Luton does this stress.
Yes. No.
I've written in the programme notes for Reading, and I know this podcast will go out before this. It's a bit out of time. But the fact that the lowest we can finish is 8th in the league is amazing.
I know.
We have progressed. Do you remember 2 seasons ago against Blackburn when we needed to win to stay in the league and other results go our way as well, and it was 3-2, and Christian Walton was in goal for why he's not my bloody goalie. He was in goal for Blackburn and he was like, really up for it. We nearly signed him on emergency loan. I'm like, no, I was so cross with him in that game. Like, just help us out, please, mate. But yeah, it's progression, massive progression. Oh. Even though we might feel if we don't make the playoffs, we might feel as if it's been a failure. No way has this season been a failure. What happens? It's incredible.
Yeah. Since Nathan came in, we haven't gone backwards.
God no. And I'll just get off my soapbox now because yeah.
So Howie, next to Howie is to finish off your 11.
To finish off my 11, this man is the club's top goal scorer 2 seasons in a row. Written off by many. 6 years with us. Fan favourite.
So it's not Andre Gray then?
Not Andre Gray. No. I told you that Matthew Spring gets an honorary mention and is in my team with that goal. I'm afraid, 30 goals or not, Andre Gray cannot be in my team.
After the way you acted after Colin scored that goal, nah. Yeah, sorry, mate.
Indeed. When Marv was talking earlier on about the connect between players and fans, this man was seen at Burton train station after we played Burton at the Pirelli on his crutches, having been to watch the game, coming down the stairs on his crutches, having autographs with fans, taking photos with fans. And he scored this season against Derby to get us in the playoff spots in the first place.
I can't think of his name. Andrew,
Marvin.
Oh my God, Marv.
Marvin. He basically he walks, if it's who I think it is, he walks on the pitch and the referee brandishes a yellow card.
Yeah.
As soon as he walks, he's like Clinton's.
The pitch.
Yeah, he's like Clint. The guy's got more cards than Clinton's as a Luton player.
but the prefix to his name is super.
It is.
My mind's blank. I'm overthinking.
Well, do you know what, Mark?
Danny Hilton.
He's not going to talk to you.
That's it.
He's not going to come and have selfies with you.
That's who I was thinking. I couldn't think of his name. I just couldn't get his name.
That happens to me all the time. But yeah, Super Danny Hilton for me. You know, he's been with us for 6 years, ups and downs and rounds, and you know, he's just brilliant. And he was one of the first players that was signed by Nathan Jones as well. A lot of people were a bit like, "Oh, okay."
Well, he dropped down a tier, wasn't he? Was he Oxford and they were a tier above us, I think?
I think so. Yeah. Basically, you know, Nathan has described him as a championship player playing in League Two, which at the time, you know, maybe not. You've got a grimace on your face for that. Maybe not
now, yeah.
At the time,
yeah, the time.
But you know, he is just amazing. He's had so many injuries, but he's just a really decent, down to earth guy. And you talk about memories, and I mentioned my nephew Jake. So when we took Jake to the Barnsley game, and he didn't want to. We were in an exec box, and it was too overwhelming for him. He didn't want to be with all the people, and I was always. So Gary's always been very kind, and when we took him to Chelsea, offered me his office for Jake to go into if he needed to. He just needs to be, you know, away from it sometimes. But he just wanted to watch the warm up. He just went straight out and he went, I want to go and watch the warm up. We literally said hello, cursory hello to everybody in the box who'd invited us, which was lovely. And I just went, we've just got to go outside. I'm sorry. And he literally was screaming every player's name. And then during the game, Danny Hilton came and was warming up. And he was saying, Danny Hilton, like over and over again. And my cousin just went, it's Super Danny Hilton. Super Danny Hilton at the top of his voice. And Danny just looked up, gave him a big thumbs up and a wave. And that was it. He was set then, Jake. He was set. And after the Chelsea game, Danny was there with his 3 kids. And I was chatting to him afterwards, and Jake came over, and I said to Jake, you know who this is? And he went, Danny Hilton. And he went, you all right, mate? And he just said, how did you enjoy the game? And honestly, his face, that somebody who he'd seen playing on the pitch, and you know, kids idolise players on the pitch, was talking to him, like taking time to talk to him. He was just beside himself with it, and he had a little photograph with him and everything, and it was lovely, and I'll never forget that. And you know, I know he's had his ups and downs throughout his career. I feel as if he's matured. He's 33 now. He's got young kids, and what he's done for Luton Town, I think lots of us are very grateful for. So Danny Hilton is up front with Steve Howard. What a combo!
Oh, there's a great combo.
Yes, lots of goals, lots of arguing with the refs.
Yeah.
With those two, I definitely think it. Why do you think Danny, and obviously Marv as a player and you, Faye, as somebody who interviews a lot of people, and particularly players, do you think that players get a rep with refs? Or is that, and do you think that literally the word gets around, even as you go up the tiers, and even Danny doesn't play as much, but you still think he has that rep where, as much as I joked a minute ago about getting cards all the time, is there some truth in that? And that's kind of the both of you, really.
Maybe less so in the Championship for Danny, but I mean, definitely, referees know tricks. They know when a player is a notorious diver. Jack Grealish had it for quite a long time when actually I used to get quite cross on Jack's behalf, because my argument is, if you're running at that kind of pace and someone tackles you, even if you anticipate it, and so there might not be contact or minimal contact is going to bring you down, but you're like Jared Bowen anticipating the Ramsdale charging out at him the other day. You don't want to get injured, so it's not diving.
And he probably is one of the most players fouled in the Premiership, wasn't he? Grealish, no doubt. And again, my mind's gone blank. As you know, the one who was at Palace, like
Wilfred Zaha.
Will Zaha, that's it. Another one who feels aggrieved that a lot of the time he went through this phase where he felt he was fouled, and then referees, like you say, probably like, he's dived, or because they get this rep sort of thing.
Well, I accept the diving one, but the booking one's an interesting one, as in descent and that type of thing. That some players seem to be like, as a Luton fan, I look at Alan Campbell, and the games recently I've been watching even from over here. You see, Alan Campbell does lots of tackles, never gets booked. But he never gets booked. Love it. But as soon as Hilton breathes on someone, it's a yellow card. That's what I find quite interesting.
Do you know what it is? There's and I mean this in the nicest way possible, there's a clumsiness to Danny when he's on the pitch that perhaps makes, and you don't know when he gets booked for dissent, you don't know what he said. And there's some referees who are perhaps more lenient with, the odd cursory word, and others who will have none of it no matter what. But certainly in terms of the tackling, I would say, because he's got a lower centre of gravity as well, Campbell, he's more graceful when he makes the tackle. You can see what he's going to do. Whereas how many times have we seen Danny kind of just like clatter into someone, and you're like, you were never going to get that. Like, it's right. I think that might have something to do with it.
And that one, I feel that as a player, you might have a better chance of getting away with being clumsy. Whereas a referee, I think, you're in control of your mouth, what you say. I mean, that's on you. So the dissent one, I would always be like, I'd be heavy on that, fining players, because that's in your control. Now, a foul or a tackle, you get sent off, unless it's like something really malicious, and you've probably got a chance of getting away with not getting a fine with me. But dissent is like 100% you're getting done, because that's in your control. Keep it sharp.
That's interesting you say that, Marv, because actually, I've been on the terraces before and been in, my various Luton WhatsApp groups in my family, our Tipsies group in particular, and the amount of time, we've lost games because Danny's got sent off, or done something stupid, or been on a yellow, therefore has to be careful the rest of the game. Unfortunately, it's been a few times, but as I say, like, my best 11 was never necessarily the best Luton Town players ever, although I do believe Danny is up there 100%. There's more to it with that, and I think he is somebody who is very much will mix with fans and chat and be, I think that's important, and he's someone else who's been a really great servant for the club.
Definitely. So that's your 11. That is your best 11. Marvin, over to you.
So which manager is going to lead this 11 then, Faye? Or is it you? It could be you.
Oh God, I'd be the worst manager ever. It'd be awful. I've been really struggling. So it's kind of between four. So for me, Joe Kinnear was in charge when we had when I used to go all the time, and my, love affair with Luton happened. or started, if you like. And I just remember being so cross when they got rid of him and Mick the way they did. And I just loved singing Hey Baby, Big Fat Joe's Gonna Take Us Up, because we didn't.
Forgot about that song.
Oh God, I haven't. Loved it.
Such an 01 song, that song.
So hoarse singing it. Then I kind of look at the wonder who is John Still, in terms of the man, what he did, like, again, like proper man of the people type person. Him and Terry were just like such a fantastic duo. Loved them being at the club. No one wanted them to leave, but we knew we had to, and it was classy the way that was done, so they could end up going back to Dagenham. So I love John. And then Nathan, for me, like one of the all-time greatest Luton managers. Feel privileged that I can call him a friend, and him coming back, I talked to him quite a bit when he left the Stoke originally, and to have him back and that be made possible was brilliant. But I think the man that made that possible, and the man that has been with this club through thick and thin, and taken the reins when he's not wanted to take the reins, and you know where this is going, don't you? And quietly goes about his business in the only way Nick Harford can do. It is the irrepressible, one and only Nick Harford who manages this team for me. No one will ever, in my eyes, surpass what he's done for us throughout good times and bad times.
No, I agree. Totally agree. I mean, very blessed and very honoured to have shared a field with Mick. I feel that way. I mean, especially when things got a little bit heated as well. So it was great to have someone of his stature, his managerial on your team. So yeah, I couldn't disagree with you there, Faye. Great choice.
Yes.
Thank you.
And even though he says it was one of the biggest embarrassments and disappointments was when we got relegated, the fans don't think that, but where he wore that on his shoulders. But he's actually won 2 major trophies for the club.
Yep.
So winning Johnson's Paint and the League One goes down as him, because he was there, and he wasn't even there for 2 games. He was there for half a season.
Yeah.
So he actually has got he's got to be up there with decorated as definitely up there with quite a few of the other managers, I'd have thought.
I remember interviewing him on stage about when we went down, and he's so gutted about it, and it's like, and I'm saying it on stage, and everyone's clapping him in the room, and he's still. But I find it, and I've spoken to him about this before as well. Find it quite funny that everyone's got this kind of hard man image about him, which on the pitch is exactly right, Marv, isn't it? You want him in your corner if there's something kicking off. But actually, he's very quiet and
very
mild-mannered and a real gentle giant. And and I love that's who he is behind the scenes. And obviously, with the tough time that he's been through over the last 2 years as well, you can tell how loved he is from the outpouring of support that he's had. And yeah, he's just legend gets bandied around far too easily, in my opinion, but 100% Nick Harford is a legend.
100%. So, just to finish off, we always do like to kind of get a bit of an idea for people who want to get into journalism and kind of a bit of your path. And so, obviously, kind of what you're doing right now, you kind of indicated a bit, but also just a short kind of what you'd recommend, a couple of kind of ideas you recommend for people who want to get into journalism.
Okay, so at the minute I'm working for TalkSport predominantly. So I was a reporter for Soccer Saturday, which was such a privilege to work on that show. I absolutely loved it. I worked at TalkSport years ago, and they asked me to cover the Women's World Cup for them in 2019. And then the pandemic happened, and I'd started up my own women's football podcast and show for TalkSport. And the pandemic happened, and they asked me to host a quiz with Darren Bent, on a Saturday night, which we did. We had such a laugh, honestly. It was such good fun on a Saturday night. And then Project Restart happened, so I'd had to leave. Project Restart happened, and obviously there were no games, so there were no games for Soccer Saturday. And TalkSport said, "Can you anchor our 5:30 game day coverage for the match?" And I was like, "Well, it will mean that I have to leave Soccer Saturday." Spoke to my Soccer Saturday producer. He went, "You would be an idiot if you didn't take that up. You better go." So that's what I did, and I was lucky. Like, this year has been incredible. I had a baby in October, so my little boy Ted is 7 months old.
Congratulations!
Thank you very much. So I was 6 months pregnant during the Euros, which was because I'm TalkSport's England correspondent on top of that. And so yeah, Ted's been to Wembley loads of times, heard the national anthem, watched us in a major final, like crazy. He has no idea, but I will be reminding him. But yeah, it's been like such a crazy year. And then I took 3 months off for maternity, and loads of people got COVID, and I ended up hosting the Carabao Cup final at Wembley, which was like the most amazing privilege. And of course, that was such a bonkers game for so many different reasons. So I had Andy Townsend, who I know well because I used to work with him back in the day at TalkSport, and Ali McCoist as well, who's just bloody brilliant. Yeah. And hosted that, which was insane.
That was was that the 21-22 penalty kick one? Was that the one I'm thinking of?
That was the one. That was the one.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the Kepa Arrizabalaga final, shall we call it? But yeah, it was that was pretty impressive. Like for me to do that, and as I say, I was called up because of COVID. But yeah, what an amazing opportunity that was. And I'm going to be obviously working across the summer for the Women's Euros, and then going to Qatar for the World Cup as England correspondent. So yeah, it's been brilliant. I love TalkSport. It's a station I've loved for years, and it's changing and evolving and getting, it's brilliant working there. And then I do lots of voiceovers from this booth, which you've seen. It's in my kitchen. In terms of what I would suggest to get into this industry, so particularly if you want to work in sport, be prepared to give up your evenings and weekends. I've lost count of the amount of people who've said to me, "Yeah, I really want to be a sports reporter. I don't work Sundays." Okay. Yeah. Kind of have to work Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. I would say, like for example, I just started off doing reports, terrible reports by the way, on my mobile phone at the back of the main stand at Kenilworth Road. It doesn't matter where you go or what team you're going, go to your local non-league team, whatever you need to do, offer your services, say anything I can do, can I write in the programme, can I help out, don't expect to be paid. It sounds awful, but it's a harsh reality. Unfortunately, right at the beginning, you're not going to get paid. I'm not saying that's right, by the way. I'm just saying that's the way it is. But if you go somewhere and apply for a job and they can see that you've got work experience and tried really hard to, do what you can do, then they're going to take you on board, for sure. Believe in yourself. That was a problem that I had in my early career. I loved what I wanted to do, but I didn't believe in myself, and there weren't that many women working in football, full stop, let alone working as journalists. And I let that hold me back for a very long time because I almost felt embarrassed, and I didn't want people to judge me for saying, "Oh, actually, can I do that?" Because it would be, "Well, why would you want to do that, little girl?" kind of thing. And maybe wrongly I had that impression. Maybe that impression wasn't actually there, but it was the experience that I'd had, definitely. Come to people like me and ask for advice. Like, there's so many people who love this industry and feel so grateful to work in it. By the way, also never ever take it for granted that you work in this industry, because it can be taken away tomorrow. There's so many people queuing up that want these jobs. So you've got to be good. You've got to keep wanting to do what you want to do. You've got to be passionate about it. You've got to love football. That's the weirdest question I get asked. "Oh, so do you actually like football?" Like, oh my God, it's the worst job in the world if you didn't like football. I give up my weekends, everything, oh my God, can you imagine? But unfortunately,
Faye, sorry to interrupt you there. I just want to go back to what you've just said there, because I feel it's quite important that you said you didn't believe in yourself, but was it the passion, the love of the football, what made you go into it and stick at it, maybe? Because, like I said, you said you didn't believe in yourself, and I'm thinking, my gosh, but and it again, not being sexist, not a lot of women were involved in that role, so you must have had some real big passion to stick at it, and in that situation.
Definitely, I think resilience really important. I'm a bit stubborn at times. I don't like being told no, and I like to prove people wrong. I don't like being written off. I don't like being pigeonholed. I wouldn't do it to someone else, so I don't see why I should have it done to me. I don't see why doors should be closed either. I've got a lot to give in this industry. There's loads more I want to do in football outside of what I'm doing now. I'm studying an MBA in football industries at the moment, and I've got some really interesting work in the pipeline that I want to look into. And I don't feel like that door should be closed for me. I don't feel like I should just be pigeonholed as just a broadcaster. There's much more I can do. So yeah, I think I've got really good people around me, and I'm really grateful for that. My mum and dad never wanted me to give up. They kept saying, "You're good at this. You're good at keep going." And believe me, I very nearly quit on many occasions. I really did. But something always came up that made me change my mind. And I really do believe you need a little bit of luck along the way. But I also, and I'm sorry for the cliche on this, I also believe you make your own luck with a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that's hard work. And it is resilience, and it is, getting knockbacks and going, okay, yeah, I can see why you've said no to that, but hang on, let me show you what else I can do. Or let me show you, that wasn't my best, let me show you my best. And that takes a little bit of, deep soul searching sometimes. But if it's something you love, like I say this to everybody, and you'll both know this as well, if you do a job that you love, it's not a job, you're not working, and it's, why spend your entire life doing something you hate? I get it. You're not here for that long.
Yeah.
But equally, I know I'm in a very privileged position. I never, ever take it for granted. And that's another thing I would say to anybody who wants to get in. Don't pull the ladder up just because you're in and you want to protect yourself. You've got to bring other people in with you. You've got to help them. Like, I didn't have anybody to help me then. And I'm part of Women in Football now. And, I don't just help other girls and women, by the way. I help young lads as well. I've got, young lads at TalkSport come and ask me for advice and what can I do? What should I do? How should I do this? It's really important to help other people. Yes, they might take your job one day, but how proud will you be that they've come to you and asked you for advice, and then you're going, yeah, I helped them get here. Look how awesome they are.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So yeah, hopefully there's some tidbits in there.
No, definitely. Excellent. Thank you so much for your time. A huge amount of your time, and we are so grateful, Faye. It was fantastic to hear you, and that was Faye Carruthers, My Best 11.